Stocks have beaten real estate by 5 times over the last 100 years. Like, it's not even close. And yet, homeowners somehow end up with 38 times more net worth than renters. Read that again. 5 times worse asset, 38 times richer owners. That math shouldn't work, but it does every single year in every single data set. And the reason it works is the dumbest, simplest thing you've ever heard. It's not the asset. It's not the market. It's not even the timing. It's something both your realtor and your stockbroker have a financial interest in never telling you, because the second you understand it, you stop needing either of them. My name is Nick, and today we're breaking down exactly which one will actually make you richer, why almost everyone gets this question wrong, and the one factor that decides the whole thing, which has nothing to do with the asset you pick. Stay with me. Leave a like, and let's get into it. Let me show you the number that started this whole debate. Over the last 100 years, the S&P 500 has returned about 10.4% per year on average with dividends reinvested. Adjusted for inflation, that's roughly 7.3% in real terms. US home prices measured by the Case-Shiller Index returned about 4% nominal and somewhere between 0.3 and 1% real over that same century. Yes, real, annual return. On housing, less than 1%. Now, what does that mean in dollars? If you took $100,000 and parked it in the S&P 500 for 30 years at the historical average, you'd end up with about 1.74 million. If you took the same $100,000 and parked it in raw home appreciation, ignoring everything else, you'd end up with about $324,000. That's a 5.4 times difference. It's not even close. Stocks don't win this race, they lap it. So we should all be selling our houses and shoving the cash into index funds, right? Wrong. And this is where it gets interesting because real estate has a cheat code that stocks don't. It's called leverage. When you buy 100,000 of Apple stock, you put up 100,000 of your own money. When you buy a 500,000 house, you put up 100,000 and the bank gives you the other 400. Suddenly you control 5 times more asset than your cash should allow. And every dollar that house appreciates flows back to your tiny down payment. Here's the math that breaks people's brains. A 400,000 house with 80,000 down. If the house goes up just 3% in a year, that's 12,000 of appreciation on your 80,000. That's a 15% return on your cash from a 3% move in the asset. Add in the principal you pay down on the mortgage, around $3,600 in year one, and you're looking at roughly 17.6% return from a house that barely beat inflation. If the house goes up 5%, your cash on cash return is closer to 27%. That's better than the stock market in almost every year on record. This is the reason your dad keeps telling you houses are the only real investment, because mathematically, when leverage is working in your favor, nothing on earth touches it. But, and there's always a but in finance because finance is mostly buts. Leverage is a switch, and before I tell you what happens when that switch flips the wrong way, you need to see what it actually looked like the last time it did. The S&P 500 dropped 56.8% from peak to trough in the 2008 crash. That's brutal, but it recovered fully by March of 2013, including dividends, 5.5 years from disaster to new highs. If you held on, you came out fine. U.S. housing prices dropped 27.4% on the Case-Shiller National Index. Half as bad on the surface, but the full nominal recovery didn't happen until late 2016. And in real terms, adjusted for inflation, housing didn't make a new high until May of 2022. 16 years to recover from a crash less than half as severe as the stock markets. In Las Vegas, prices fell 55%. Phoenix, 51, Miami, 47. People who bought in those markets in 2006 didn't break even until their kids were in middle school. Now apply leverage to that. 80,000 down on a 400,000 house. If that house drops 20%, the house is worth 320. He owes 320, wiped out, zero equity, and he can't sell because there's no money to pay the realtor. The market made him rich on the way up and made him a prisoner on the way down. Stocks don't do this to you. If you own 100,000 in index funds and the market drops 30%, You have 70,000. You're sad, but you're free. You can sell tomorrow. You can move tomorrow. The asset doesn't own you. So why does anyone use leverage at all? Because most of the time, prices go up. And when they do, you're the one holding the bag of gold, okay? I know this is a lot of numbers. Stick with me because we haven't even talked about the costs yet. And the costs are where this whole conversation gets weird. When somebody tells you their house went from 200,000 to 500,000, they think they made 300,000. They did not. Property taxes in the US average about 1.1% per year. So that's 4,400 right off the top every year on a 400,000 house. In New Jersey, that's 2.23%. Texas, 1.6. Property taxes don't stop when you pay off the mortgage. You will pay them every year until you die or sell. They are the rent you pay to the government for the privilege of owning a house you already own. Homeowners insurance averages about $2,500 a year nationally. In Florida, the average is $8,500 per year to insure one house. Insurance has gone up 46% since 2021 because of weather, fraud, and the fact that insurance companies have figured out you can't say no. Maintenance follows the 1% rule. About 1% of your home's value per year, so another $4,000. Owning a house is basically a subscription to a building, except the subscription randomly tries to kill you with plumbing. Some years it's nothing. Other years your AC dies and your roof leaks and you write a $17,000 check while pretending to be calm in front of the contractor. Then there's HOA fees, PMI if you put less than 20% down, closing costs of 2 to 5%. A 5.7% realtor commission when you sell. Add it all up, and the typical homeowner who holds for 7 years pays roughly 10 to 15% of their home's value in pure friction costs. That's before the house has appreciated a single dollar. Real estate doesn't have an expense ratio. It has a tax bracket. Stocks, by comparison, charge you basically nothing. The Vanguard S&P 500 ETF charges 0.03% a year. That's $3 on every 10,000. No property tax, no insurance, no leaking dishwasher, no phone call at 11 p.m. from a tenant whose toilet just exploded. Now here's where most people get this completely backwards. Robert Shiller, the economist who literally invented the housing index we've been using this entire video, ran the numbers on what Americans think their homes returned versus what they actually returned. The average homeowner estimates their real return at about 7% per year. The actual real return going back to 1890 is closer to 0.4%. That's not a small mistake. That's overestimating reality by 17 times. And it's not because homeowners are stupid, it's because the human brain remembers the sticker price going up and forgets the 200,000 they shoveled into the foundation over 30 years. You remember closing day, you forget every property tax bill, every insurance premium, every weekend at Home Depot. The sticker is dramatic. The drip is invisible. So when your uncle at Thanksgiving tells you he tripled his money on his house in 25 years, what he actually did was barely keep up with inflation while paying for a place to live, he's not lying. He's just running the wrong math. And almost everyone runs the wrong math, which is exactly why real estate always wins, survives as a belief, even though the data has been screaming the opposite for 100 years. But before you cancel your house tour and put everything in VOO, here's where stocks have a problem most people ignore. You are the problem with stocks. The asset is fine. You're the one who keeps panic selling at the bottom. A research firm called Dalbar tracks this every year. They found that the average stock investor underperforms the S&P 500 by 3 to 5 percentage points per year. Not because the market is rigged, because the average investor checks their account every day, panics during corrections, sells when it hurts, and buys back in once everything feels safe again, which is, of course, when prices are higher. Real estate accidentally protects you from this. You can't panic sell your house. The transaction takes 60 days. You have to pay a realtor 6%. You have to pack up your kids and you have to find somewhere else to live. The friction that makes real estate annoying is the same friction that saves you from your own brain. This is why the average homeowner ends up wealthier than the average renter, even though the math says they shouldn't. The Federal Reserve's 2022 survey of consumer finances found the median homeowner has a net worth of $396,000. The median renter has a net worth of $10,400. That's a 38 times difference. It's not because the houses appreciated 38 times more. They didn't. It's because the mortgage forced people to save and the illiquidity stopped them from screwing it up. Your house is essentially a savings account with extra steps. You put money in every month, whether you feel like it or not. You can't withdraw on a whim. And one day, 30 years later, you wake up with an asset worth several $100,000 that you cannot remember actively building. Quick word on taxes, because this is where Real Estate Flex's muscle stocks can't match. Sell your primary residence and you can exclude up to $250,000 in capital gains if you're single, $500,000 if you're married, tax-free. Stocks don't get that. The IRS takes 15 to 20% of your stock gains. They get nothing from your house up to those limits. Rental real estate is even weirder. You can depreciate the building over 27.5 years, which gives you a tax deduction for an expense that didn't actually happen. And the 1031 exchange lets you sell a rental and roll the entire gain into another property without paying capital gains forever until you die. And when you die, your heirs get the property at a stepped up basis, meaning all those deferred gains just disappear. The tax is never paid by anyone. It's called buy, borrow, die, and it's the most efficient wealth preservation strategy ever legally invented. The catch? Most of this only matters if you're already wealthy. For normal people, stocks have a better tax shelter, and it's called the 401k. If your employer matches your contributions, that's an instant 50 to 100% return on every dollar before the market does anything. Nothing in real estate matches an employer match. Nothing. Fidelity reported there are now 537,000 401k millionaires in America. The average one is 59, has been in the same plan for 26 years, and contributes more than 17% of their income. They didn't time the market. They didn't pick stocks. They just kept feeding the same boring index fund every 2 weeks for a quarter of a century. Now, here's something nobody talks about because it would put a lot of YouTube real estate gurus out of business. Buying a rental property in 2026 actually doesn't work in most of America. The classic rule was the 1% rule. Monthly rent should be at least 1% of the purchase price. A $200,000 house should rent for $2,000 a month. Like, that rule is dead in basically every major US market. The median home is now $408,000. The median rent is around $2,000. That's a 0.49% ratio, less than half what makes a rental cash flow positive. Run the math on a $400,000 rental at $2,500 a month with 20% down at today's 7% investor rate. After taxes, insurance, maintenance, vacancy, and property management, you're losing roughly $11,500 a year, almost $1,000 a month out of your pocket on top of the down payment. Your cash-on-cash return is negative 14.5% in year one. Mortgage rates are higher than rental yields in almost every US metro. The math doesn't work, period. Anyone telling you to buy rental properties right now is either lying, not running real numbers, or selling you a course. So who actually wins? Ramsey Solutions did a study of over 10,000 American millionaires. 8 out of 10 invested in their company's 401k. 3 out of 4 also invested outside the 401k. 0 said single stock picking made them rich. The average time to $1 million was 28 years. 79% received no inheritance. 33% never had a six-figure year in their lives. The top 5 professions of American millionaires: engineer, accountant, teacher, manager, attorney. There are more millionaire teachers than millionaire lawyers. Let that sit for a second. About a third of the typical millionaire's net worth sits in their primary residence, which means roughly 2/3 is somewhere else. Mostly stocks, mostly retirement accounts, mostly through 30 years of automatic contributions to a fund they never touched. Real estate is the middle class's wealth builder. Stocks are the wealthy's wealth builder. And the difference between the two groups isn't usually intelligence, it's how many decades they kept compounding without flinching. Let me show you what this actually looks like in real life. Two friends, both 32 today, same income, same 80,000 saved. Friend 1 drops it all into an S&P 500 index fund and keeps renting. Friend 2 puts it down on a 400,000 house. Both keep contributing to a 401k. 30 years later, they're both 62. Friend 1's 80,000 grew to about 1.4 million in the index fund. With his 401k, his net worth is around 2.1 million. He rents near the beach now, pays cash for his car, travels 4 months a year because he has zero maintenance and no property to manage. Friend 2's house is worth about 1.1 million, mortgage paid off 5 years ago. He started maxing his 401k once the house ate less of his income, but for the first 15 years, almost everything went to the mortgage. His total net worth is around 1.6 million. Same house, knows every neighbor, garage full of tools, grandkids visit on weekends. Friend 1 is technically richer. Friend 2 slept better at 3 a.m. most of those nights, except when the dishwasher leaked. Neither one made a wrong choice. They made different ones, and they both stuck with them. But there's a third friend nobody talks about. He started investing at 32, panic sold in 2008, bought a house at the peak in 2022, sold it at a loss in 2027, jumped back into stocks during the rally, sold during the next correction, and tried rental real estate during the years it didn't cash flow. He has 180,000 at age 62. That's the friend most people actually become. So here's the honest framework. Real estate wins if you can put down a real down payment and hold for 15 years or more. If rent in your area is reasonably close to a mortgage payment, if you have a stable job and aren't planning to move every 3 years, and critically, if you would otherwise blow that 80,000 on car payments and lifestyle creep instead of investing it. Stocks win if you haven't yet maxed your 401k match. If you live in an expensive metro where the price to rent ratio is 25 or higher, San Francisco, San Jose, LA, Seattle, Denver, if you might move for work, if you don't want to spend Saturdays fixing things, if you have the discipline to keep buying through a 50% crash. For most normal people earning 70 to 100,000 a year, the right answer is both. Buy a modest primary residence, ideally for 1.49 times your annual income or less, which is what the average self-made millionaire actually does. Then max your 401k to the match, fill up a Roth IRA, and dump everything else into a low-cost index fund. That's it. That's the formula. Boring, repetitive, slow, effective. So which one will actually make you richer? Stocks will compound your money faster, mathematically. Real estate will compound your discipline harder, behaviorally. The first one rewards your brain. The second one protects you from it. Pick the one that matches who you actually are, not who you wish you were. If you'll panic sell your stocks in a crash, real estate will probably make you richer because the asset is glued in place. If you'll never bother fixing a leaky roof, stocks will probably make you richer because there's nothing to fix. Both work. Neither works alone for most people. Your realtor and your stockbroker both want you to believe their thing is the only thing, but your interest is different. Your interest is to keep growing your net worth quietly, automatically for the next 30 years in whatever vehicle you'll actually stick with. Stop arguing about real estate versus stocks. That's the dumbest argument on the internet. Start arguing with yourself about whether you'll actually keep buying either one for 30 years. That's the only question that matters. The richest version of you isn't the one who picked the right asset. It's the one who stayed in the game long enough to find out it didn't matter which one. Oh, and by the way, if you got value out of this video, hit the like button so the algorithm keeps showing it to people who need to hear it. Subscribe if you want more videos like this where I just run the actual math instead of selling you a course. I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for educational purposes only. Any results depend on your own decisions and your own actions.